I've opened up InDesign here, and it's giving you some options to start a new document. You can also create some web documents and documents that are for tablets or online magazine stuff, which contain some interactivity as well. We're not going to focus on that, so we're just focusing on the print stuff. So you can say create new print document. And when you create a new print document, then the things come up that we were just talking about. Of course, it starts with the number of pages. Well, in this case, for your first thing, if you recreate this magazine spread, start with 4 pages. And here you see a tick box that says facing pages. Well, that's the thing. If I uncheck it, the pages will be all under each other and they're not stitched together. So we don't have a spread, we just got 4 separate pages. So I'm going to tick facing pages so it's on, having 4 pages. I'm just going to start with page number 1, that's fine. And my size is the size you actually need to measure. So with the ruler provided, you can actually measure the paper size and put that in here. So make that exact. Maybe it's not A4, but it's something else. So you can put that in here. The orientation, I guess that's familiar with Word and everything. Is it landscape or is it portrait? Then you have the columns, the thing we were just talking about where text was in. So now it says 1 column. That means there's just 1 big column. Let's say my magazine has 3 columns and the gutter was the space between those columns. So let's put it to 5 millimeters. Next thing is the margin. So you see here, you can differ the top, the bottom, the inside, and the outside. So inside, where's my magazine? Here. So inside is in this line where the papers are stitched together, and the outside is to the outside of the page. All right? As long as this little box here is ticked, the link box, you can uncheck it so you can separate all these margins, or you can have them all the same. For now, I'm just going to have them the same. Next one is bleed and slug, but we're not going to talk about slug right now. So here you can set the bleed, and I'm going to set it to 5 millimeters as well. So it's top, bottom, inside, outside, all the sides 5 millimeters. Okay, let's see what it does. There's my document. At least 1 page. So you see the 3 columns. You see the space in between, that's actually 5 millimeter. And the bleed is there as well as 5 millimeter. Now in here, this is my first page, and we created 4. So let's look at where the other pages are. If you look at the interface, it looks a bit like Photoshop actually. You have your tools on your left side. At the top you can see there are a lot of options when you have an object selected. And on the right there's even more things you can see. There are layers that you can use and other palettes as well that you can put in. Also there's pages. If you don't have these, you can always find them under Window. Or you go to Window and say Workspace, Reset Essentials. Hi. Then yes, I can. You go to Window, Reset Essentials. To what point? Slower. Where are you? Do you have this on screen? No. Okay. So when you created a new document, your columns is set to 1. And depending on the page you recreate, you can actually create more columns as well. So when you have these columns, and it's okay for the demo now, you can check it later as well. Let's look at the other pages. We created 4 pages, so I'm going to look at here my window pages. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And what I see is I got my first page, that's this one, that's presented here to me now. I can double click here on the 2 and 3 and my other pages come up. These are my facing pages, the spread that I need to recreate later today. And then I also got a back page. So you see that, that's page number 4. So they're all actually presented here already as a magazine. You got a cover, you got the inside, and you got a back page. So inside the spread, I'm going to work now, and I'm going to place in some elements. In here, you can create text boxes and shapes, place images, and rearrange them the way you want to, and let them interact as well. So let's start out with a header for my article. So in here, I'm going to select the text tool, the type tool, the T. You see it also comes with the T in, oh, where is it now? If you hold it down, there, inside the yellow box, the T. So shortcut on your keyboard, T. Learn shortcuts, it really helps you. You can click and drag to create a text box. So I'm gonna go here in the corner with my mouse. It snaps to that corner actually. And you'll see it also snaps to the edges of these columns I created. But I'm gonna drag it all the way up there, here. And now I can type something. So I'm gonna type article X. It's pretty small. I'm selecting it. On top of here, you see that I can actually adjust the size and select a font. No, I don't want. Thank you. If you have one of these on the top, it's going to look for Adobe Typekit fonts. You don't want them on because, well, I have nothing installed here now. Here are the fonts that, well, you can use. So let's take a very simple one. Let's take this one, and we need it a bit bigger still. All right, there's my text. And my text box is a bit too big. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. It stays there. Okay, this is my header. And now I'm going to create a text that is actually the content of my magazine. And as you recreate it, you don't have to type over the text that's inside your magazine. We created 3 columns. So actually I'm going to create another text box here. And instead of typing things in, I can use actually a placeholder text. If you have your cursor in there, so you could type, you go to type in the top, and there at the bottom it says fill with placeholder text. And if you do that, the text box is filling up with lorem ipsum demo text. So you can use that actually to see, okay, this is how my final thing is going to look like. Now, if I want to create another text box, and I got this text from the copywriter, so it should be exactly this length, and I'm designing my page. I'm not sure if this whole text is going to fit in this column. So if I'm creating another text box, there, now it's empty. I'm just going to leave it empty, so it stays there as you see. And I'm going to make this one a bit smaller because here I'm going to put in an image. I'm going to drag this down, and the start of the text is still there. The only difference is it's less text, of course. But this red plus appears, and the red plus means there's text that's not visible. Okay? If you click on that one, your cursor changes to this link thing, and I can link actually these 2 text boxes. So if I click down on the other text box, the text continues from this text box into that one. It is cool, because in this way you never lose text. The text that you want to be in there, it should be in there, is always then visible. If I make this one bigger again, you see that the text is just moving along with it. And this one, of course, I can move independently as well, down here. I just let it have it start somewhere in the middle or the same height, you see. So now it's exactly fitting in these 2 columns. That could mean I can put an image here on the top. I'm just going to use a placeholder thing now, so I'm just going to use a rectangle, a shape to put in there. So here in the tools you can see there's type, but there's lines, and you can use pen tools, but I'm just going to use the rectangle tool. And the rectangle tool is nothing more than a box. So click and drag to create a box. There it is. It's empty. And a box, a shape, has two things, a stroke and a fill. So the stroke, well, I can imagine you know what that is. It's the thing around it. And it actually is now nothing, as is also the fill. On the top here, you see these little two red dashes. Bottom one stroke, top one the fill. So if I'm selecting the stroke and make it black, now it has a black line. See? It's hard to see with these blue things, right? These blue lines. And you can actually see what it is when you want to see the final thing, like without all the helping lines in there. Just press W on your keyboard, and this is the thing we created. See that? That's already looking like a page with an image with some text with it, right? So press W on your keyboard, and it switches between all these helping lines and the final thing you created. W. Select the text box again, or sorry, the shape again, and then let's see if you look at the fill here. We can also check a color there, and we're going to dive in all these different colors and how it works later. But just to give you a heads up, you can fill it with some color in here, and have a stroke a different color, or make the stroke a bit thicker. There you are. So you can place text boxes, you can place shapes in there, you can link text boxes together, fill the text boxes with type, fill with placeholder text once you're in there, and use these helping lines actually to guide you through your design actually. Let's see, there was some other things. Did you have a question in the meantime? I saw one question there. No? No? Okay. Then I'm going to look at reps and images. Okay, I'm going to make another text box, so the text actually can continue later to this text box as well. So I'm going to press this little arrow, or there's no plus now, but the little box there below, and I'm going to link this one as well. So now if I make the middle one smaller, it continues there as well. That's what I wanted. And I'm going to look up an image online, something. What should I look for? An image. Let it be decent.
Puppies.
Okay, there are your puppies. How cute. I'm just gonna let's pick this one. I'm gonna save it to my drive, and I'm actually going to place this image. When you're going to work with print, you don't want to place all your images in this document. You want to link only to the document, or to the images. So every time you're going to place an image, it's a link to the file that you want to put in there. So the official way to do it, instead of just dragging and dropping stuff, is go to File, and there it is, Place. So you're placing an image inside this document. And I'm going to look for the thing I just downloaded. Where is it? Or was it on desktop? It was in downloads, right? It's not in there. Well, let's take this one. No puppies, Amsterdam. There it is. So my cursor is changing now to a preview of the image, and I can click anywhere to place actually the image inside. And it's a pretty big image, this one, so look what's going to happen. Oh no, I didn't want that for the demo at least. I clicked on the shape, so it's going to be placed now inside this shape. Something you definitely can use, but I didn't want it for now, so I'm going to click on an empty spot in InDesign. There it is. So it's big, you see. it's not fitting my page, and it's all pixelated. But I know actually this image is very high resolution. We're going to talk about it later as well. It's just a preview mode of InDesign, so you can work fine with it. Don't worry about it now. We'll talk about that later. But it's not the size that I want. I want it actually to be here, a small image in the text. So I'm going to place the edge there. And I'm going to click one of the edges, the sides to make it smaller. That's what you should do, right? I guess. Okay, let's do that. Make it smaller. If you hold down Shift, you see it. Remember that from Photoshop, that you can still have the correct width and height thing. Okay, there it is. So it's not making it smaller by just clicking and dragging one of the handles with an image. It's actually cropping it. So there's two things here. That's the outer frame and the inside. That is the image. So as you see, the frame is actually pretty small. And if I double click on it, you see actually the size of the image. See the brown lines? So this is my image size. So if I'm going to make that smaller, there it is again. Right? So in that way, I can actually say, okay, so my image frame should be the size of this column. And now I'm going to look what kind of composition I would like. So I'm going to double click it. The outside frame, the blue one, you can just click and drag one of the handles and you can make the frame smaller or bigger. And the inside, if you double click on it, you get the brown frame that is actually the size of the image. And you can make that one smaller or bigger as well. So there it is. This is the size that I want for now. All right. Now it's there, but remember I had text there, right? And the text is actually underneath this image. So that's not handy. And there are several ways you can deal with this. One way is making this text box smaller. So I'm just going to select the text box, click and drag this line up, and there it goes. One other way is, let's place this image to the side. Here. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. There. Content, also bigger. It's ugly. But it doesn't matter. It's the demo, right? Okay, I'm going to place another element in here. If you hold down long on such a shape, you can see there's also the ellipse and a polygon. And I'm going to make a round. Remember, this is for demo, it's not to be pretty or anything. And I'm going to use this circle, fill it with blue as well. Okay, I'm going to make the same stroke as the top one here, black. And put it down a bit here in the edge of the page. Something like this. Still, text is underneath it. Now if I would drag it up, I actually want the text here as well. So you can let the text wrap around objects that of your choice. The way to do it, there's a special window for it. So you go to Window, and there's Text Wrap. And here it says actually what the object should do. So if I select my shape, you can select here the way the text should wrap around it. So wrap around a bounding box. This is what happens. Wrap around the object shape. It's around the circle. It's pretty close to it, so you can actually make it a bit, the distance between the shape and the text a bit bigger. See? And in that way you can wrap text around objects. Also images, also other text boxes. Well, I think that's enough to work with for now. Questions that I can answer now, because I definitely can answer your questions, of course, when you work on it. But I think you just should start work on it.